We are here at the Open Community Experience, which is the Eclipse Foundation conference, and I'm here with Hendrik Ebbers, is that right? Who is the leader of the Java track. And in your talk, I learned basically about demuring.
Okay.
And one thing that I didn't know, and okay, there will be probably more things that I didn't know. It's my ignorance, but probably that's I'm speaking for a group of many Java developers who might not know everything from behind the scenes. So demuring is actually an acronym, so a permutation of the word runtime.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
so it's a great runtime where you can run your Java applications on. But what I still don't get is, okay, so I've used Java since actually the first version. So in the beginning, Java, the only source you could get Java from was Sun Microsystems.
Exactly. Yeah.
After that, Sun Microsystems was acquired by Oracle. People got scared a little bit about the future of Java. Then we got OpenJDK, which meant now we have a lot of vendors who produce Java binaries based on the OpenJDK source. And so that's like, at least to me,
Yeah.
it means we have a variety, we have different support models, maybe some special features. So my question is, I heard that demuring is vendor neutral distribution of Java or OpenJDK. So what exactly does it mean? Because I know that Eclipse Foundation is also backed by some companies.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Let me explain that. So maybe we take an example, and let's take a fictional company. Let's call it a food company, and what they do is they want to get into the Java market, and what they do is they use the OpenJDK and create their own binaries out of it. So they create a Java runtime. To call it Java runtime, what they need to do is they need to pass the TCK test that comes from Oracle. So they need to get in contact with Oracle, get the TCK so that they're able to run it and so on. But once that is done and they have built the binaries, they can say like, oh, here's the full Java binary, and you can use it and execute it. And what people that behave like that, because there are several people on the market, and it's okay to be such a to be such a company, is they do this because maybe they want to get money from it by having other companies that, for example, buy commercial support for that binaries. What they often do is they tweak some small things, put some sugar on top of what the OpenJDK brings, like adding a specific garbage collection to it or something like that. Yeah. And even having a specific garbage collection can end in a kind of vendor login, because if you depend on that garbage collection, that is only part of the foo binary, and that is provided by the foo company in a private repo, then you have a vendor login, right? So, and what we have seen at the beginning, so when we started the Adoption project, is that this happened a lot. Even Oracle did it, actually. So when the OpenJDK was published and was created by Oracle, next to what is part of the OpenJDK, Oracle added a lot of additional stuff in the Java builds from Oracle.
Yeah.
Things like, for example, Java Web Start, that was never open source, never part of the OpenJDK,
Yeah.
but was part of each and every Oracle binary. And
There is something called IST.
IST Web, yeah, that's an alternative that you can use. It has been developed by Red Hat, exactly. But none of it, so neither IST Web or what Oracle called Oracle Web Start, was ever part of the OpenJDK. So what people started is to create things on top, and if you have like several companies who does that could really end like in having hard vendor lock-in when it's about creating something on Java. And with that idea in mind, and the idea that, oh yeah, we have Oracle as a big player that kind of starting changing the license model for Java and so on, the Adopt OpenJDK project, which is the so Eclipse Adoptium is the successor of the Adopt OpenJDK project, and the Adopt OpenJDK project had the goal to take the OpenJDK binaries and create a build out of it, coming from the community.
Yeah.
And that was very, very successful, with already in this community project millions of downloads quite fastly, where we then decided to move this to Eclipse now we come to the vendor neutrality, as a vendor neutral home. Because I totally agree with you that like Eclipse gets its income, its money to have projects by companies who pay for it. So first of all, when you are an Eclipse member, you will pay for your membership. And then if you want to be a member of a specific working group because you are highly depend on something or you want just to move it forward, then you need to pay your membership for this working group too. So, which means, like, let's take an example. Red Hat is part of the Adoptium working group, so Red Hat pays money to be at that place. That's just a fact. And that money, like from all the different companies, is used for Adoptium, for example, to provide the infrastructure and the servers that we can use to build and provide the binaries from Tamarind. But it's not that Red Hat does it. It's like a steering committee. So we have the working group where already several parties, members and companies are in. And then out of this working group, we have a steering committee that can vote on important decisions within the project. Like if we need to decide something on the roadmap, where things should move in what direction, then it's really like it from politics or something like that, right? So it's really a vote. And by being part of the working group, depending on what level you are in, it could be that you automatically have a seat, or as I was my company, I was voted to have a seat in Adoptium, so that I can vote on the roadmap for Adoptium. So, and that is where the vendor neutrality comes into place, because it's not one company who decides in what direction it goes. It's like people from multiple companies or entities. I mean, there are user groups in it too, who decide together what is the best for the project and where to move it. And even if a company, I don't know, the food company, pays like $100 million, they cannot decide the direction of a project within the Eclipse Foundation.
Yeah. So they need to agree with other companies.
Yes, and if they do not agree, then there will be a vote actually to see in what direction it goes. And that is like how in general, I would say like in modern open source foundations, the project works in general. So I'm kind of deep into it. I'm now in the board of the Eclipse Foundation and in some projects like Adoptium. And next to this, I'm leading a TSC, so a technical committee at the Linux Foundation. And even at the Linux Foundation, it's more or less the same. It's like, oh yeah, you get seats in those committees mostly by voting individual members coming out of the companies who create the working groups, and then those committees can, if there is a problem, vote and give the direction to it. And the good thing is, and this really happens, that those committees are created from a really diverse group, like starting from individuals over maybe user groups, over things like universities, up to smaller companies like my company is, up to big companies like Microsoft, IBM, Red Hat, and so on. And when a decision for Adoptium is needed, like, okay, there's an operation. So we have, for Adoptium, we have a lot of different operation systems that we provide with binaries for Tamarin. Like, so it's not only Windows, Mac, and Linux. We have a lot of additional, especially in the Unix sector, operation systems that we support, and we even have like the people from RISC-V are part of the working group, so it really goes into even other architectures. And if we, for example, decide, should we support a new operation system, which means we need hardware for that operation system to build. We need hardware to run all our tests to prove that the build is really enterprise ready and so on. Which we need people that maintain those hardware and maintain the builds and releases for those hardware. So each and every additional platform that we support costs money. And when we decide, should we do that, and that's the awesome thing, my voice counts as much as a voice from Microsoft, for example. Because independent of how big a company is or how, it is like you have one seat in the committee and
so
exactly
it's more
one vote.
Democratic.
Yeah, exactly. And that is where the vendor neutrality comes into play. So it's not that there are no companies behind it, because without that there would be no money and you could not do it. It's more like there's a framework that the companies, independent if they're big or small, can work together on the same level and create something
their
together.
Interests are a little bit more balanced.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And I have maybe one more. I am also one of those who like that I can download binaries because I'm lazy.
Yeah.
And I just download something and can start it right away. But I remember a guy who, for example, liked the Gen 2 Linux distribution, which was distributed as source code, and he downloaded the source code and compiled it on his machine because he just didn't want to trust anyone to build the binaries for him. So could be that an alternative that everybody just downloads OpenJDK and builds it on their machine, on their operating system?
The point is, building a Java distribution out of the OpenJDK is hard. So it's not like building a small Java application. It's really, you have all this vendor specific stuff, like is it on Windows, on Mac, on Linux, and so on in it. C is included and all that. So it's really kind of complex. And
so it's normally just make.
And normally you don't want to do that. On the other hand, and that is really where it gets critical from my point of view, is when you have built it. I mean, you can, and that's a good thing. You can build it on your own, especially with what we have as Tamarin, because we have everything open. So we have our build scripts open, our Jenkins is open, so the job that creates the binary is fully visible. You can look into it. You cannot mutate it, right? But you can see all the steps that are done and so on and so on. So you could redo it on your own. That's totally doable. But by redoing it on your own, let's assume you make at least a little piece different, wrong. So how do you know that your Java binary is really enterprise ready and works and not maybe ends after 10 minutes in a deadlock? that's a problem, you know, when you build it on your own. So there are
it is possible to make some mistakes.
mistake. Yeah.
You need to make some configuration.
I mean, we are humans, right? Everybody make mistakes.
Yeah.
Even and there are.
It depends on how automated it is.
Exactly.
Currently, if we, like, for example, deploy our application to a cloud, we usually have a pipeline that is automated. We just merge our branch into Git, and then it just works. But it's probably not that simple.
And now the point is, now somebody can ask, but how does Adoptium know that the Tamarind builds are working, right? Because we build it on our own too. And here what we do is we have a kind of quality gate, actually. So, and the quality gate is defined by two different points. One is the official Java TCK that comes from Oracle, and that one is sadly closed source, and you need to have a contract with Oracle that you get access to it and execute your binaries that you've created against it to check if they fulfill the Java standard. So Eclipse has that. So with the Tamarind binaries, we can do that. But let's assume, that tests the functionality and so on and so on. But what you can do even is like, you changed something by mistake, and now something is way, way slower. So it's not broken, but it's way slower. And that is where, and for other places too, our own testing framework, which is called Aquavit, comes into place. That is a testing framework that you can use to test any OpenJDK-based binary. So any Java distribution can be tested with Tamarind and with Aquavit. And what it does is it executes hundreds of thousands of tests against that binary. It starts with some tests that are in the OpenJDK. It executes a lot of TCKs coming from things like Jakarta EE or Eclipse microprofile. It executes all tests that, for example, Tomcat, the application server, has in the Tomcat repos. All that will be executed with our or with the binary that is under test. And it has a lot of benchmarks that are executed to check that the binary is, enterprise ready, fast enough, kind of thing. And that is quite expensive. Like, that is where the money that is coming from the companies behind the working group is really used to provide the infrastructure and so on to run those
still
tests.
Better than mining Bitcoin, I guess.
Yeah. And next to that, we have something new. And now it comes into play that I would say, maybe you build your own binary, because since kind of last year, we now have fully reproducible builds. So that's a feature. Even the OpenJDK was not fully reproducible, so the Adoptium group contributed changes to the OpenJDK to make it fully reproducible. What does that mean? It means when you build on two machines a version of Tamarind, those two versions are byte by byte equal. So if you do a diff on the byte layer of those two versions, there's no difference. So there is no timestamp in it from the build, nothing like that. Which means what you could do if you want to, you could build Tamarind on your own and do a binary check of your build against one that you download, right? And the idea is to then even have a REST API for that, where you can say, here's my hash from the binary. Is it valid? And the thing says, that is valid. That is how it should be. You can use that one. So, and that is where we currently work on to make it even more user friendly, to check on a hash-based bytecode layer if the version that you currently have is solid and not maybe corrupted, right? So maybe let's assume there's a man in the middle problem, and you get on your machine a corrupted version. So then you can do this binary check to see if it works.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Okay. Now I understand you a lot better, and thank you for your time and
Absolutely.
for explaining. Okay.
Sure.